New Fauci? Same old problems? Let's see. Hello there, you 6.4 million awakening wonders. Thanks for joining me on this voyage to truth and freedom. Within you, there is a great light. Nurture that light. Do not let them make you feel unlovable and unworthy. There is a greatness within you waiting to be born. I can feel it. I can see it. Turn on the notification bell right now and subscribe to this channel. We make this content every single day. I do not want you to miss a thing. Remember, we do this show on Rumble every day. From June 5th, we'll be back with fantastic guests like this one. I had a magnificent conversation with an activist who was blowing whistles all over the place during the pandemic, who had interesting information about the new Fauci. The NIH has replaced Fauci. Fauci can't go on forever. It's not like he's got access to wonder drugs. Let's not get into that territory. But there is a new Fauci in town. Is this new Fauci going to be any better? How can they be when over their career they've accepted hundreds and millions of dollars of Pfizer funding? This is a fantastic conversation with Dr. Bob Gill that you are going to love. You're going to walk away from a lot smarter. Stay to the end.
First thing we wanted to talk to you about was Monica Bertagnolli, aka the new Fauci. She previously received $290 million in funding from Pfizer. Is she an appropriate person to be working in the position that she is, when many people suspect that Anthony Fauci's ties to the pharmaceutical industry led to his mismanagement, some people are saying, of the pandemic, and possibly, a lot of people talk about how Fauci handled the AIDS crisis 20 years earlier also. What do you think about these kind of figures that have had financial ties to Big Pharma being in government positions?
I think it's a very big problem. It doesn't bode well. This new appointee got Anthony Fauci's blessing. If you look at Joe Biden's record in office, it's not been very good in terms of improving America's healthcare. But the corporate lobby, the corporate entities, how do they hold power? They hold power through donations. They hold power through political contributions. They hold power through regulatory capture. And the NIH should be acting in the public interest. But when you have people heavily sponsored or funded by private business and drug companies, well, that raises the obvious question of conflicts of interest. What are these people going to get in return for their investment? In America, their healthcare system from the 1970s has drifted more and more into corporate control and away from providing cheap, effective healthcare for the population. And this seems to me a continue along that trajectory.
We have just found out that the United States spends more on healthcare than any other country, but life expectancy is going down. We've got a graph that demonstrates that. Can you talk us through why you imagine that this peculiar ascendancy is occurring?
Well, you can see the graph which compares the United States to Western developed countries. They started to drift away to the right and downwards. That means more expensive, lower life expectancy. And what they did back in the 70s was to adopt what's called a managed care model. And this was revealed via the Nixon tapes, where the person advocating this shift expressed very clearly that it was all about making more money. In fact, to quote from what was on the tapes, the less care you provide, the more money you make. So this was a starting point of a drift away from rational healthcare. But the other discrepancy, the American system is extremely bureaucratic. Up to $1 in every 3 goes out in administration, management, and shareholder dividend and CEO pay. So a lot of it is hemorrhaging. It's not delivering any healthcare. The way Big Pharma is regulated, or lack of regulation, means that they can profiteer and charge very high prices for drugs that we get a lot cheaper in this country. And there's also a perverse incentive. The more privatized the healthcare system is, potentially the more unnecessary interventions you get, and the more waste there is due to fragmentation. So, in the States, they have a very poorly developed primary care or family physician system, and they're dealing with problems downstream. There's no profit in prevention. They wait until the problems arise, and then they come up with very expensive solutions.
I'm minded of the conversation we had with Callie Means, a whistleblower against the food industries for whom he previously worked, who's joining us at the Community Festival in July. There's a link in the chat if you want to join us there. There are still some tickets available, and I'd love you to come, actually, Dr. Bob. He pointed out to us and made it sort of evident and clear that the food industry is irresponsible in the type of food that is promoted, that they, with their knowledge and understanding of like seed oils and processed food and sugars, that they could reduce, if not eliminate, diabetes, many types of heart disease, and even some cancers if they handled it responsibly. It seems sometimes like these companies are using human beings as a kind of chattel, sort of moving them from one market to another market, filling us up, because I'm a human being, I suppose, fundamentally, like filling us up with bad food, giving us bad advice. And health insurance companies are incentivized to make patients appear more ill than they actually are. It feels like systemically there are such serious problems, Doctor, that was nothing less than a radical reevaluation and even the abolition of some of these systems is what's required. Tell us a little more about the way that health insurance companies function, if you would.
Yeah, so what you've referenced there is a type of fraud. It's a fraud called upcoding, whereby if you present a patient as being sicker than they really are, you can attract a greater fee when the government is paying. And what the private insurers are doing, they are increasing their expansion into the American healthcare by taking over the control of government-funded healthcare. So that includes Medicare and Medicaid. So these are two systems that the taxpayer funds. And the reason they have them is because the insurance industry wasn't interested in unprofitable patients. But now they've realized if we can get our hands on government funding as well, all the more profit for our shareholders. So they are expanding rather than their control being limited, which is what we were promised by Bernie Sanders and others. We were going to rein in the power of these companies, but exactly the opposite is taking place.
Do you think then a candidate like RFK, certainly based on what he's saying, could make a significant difference in this field? Do you need someone that's willing to go up against corporations? Do you need someone that's willing to confront the deep state to meaningfully make a difference in this area? I know Gareth's got points on this subject. It's obviously an area that we're continually looking at. But what do you think about the possibility of change being induced by apparently radical candidates, although all they seem to me to be is authentic, honest, and willing to go up against big power? You know, I'm talking about the likes of Marianne Williamson and RFK. What have you heard anything encouraging from those candidates?
Yeah, I heard your interview. I was captivated by, I got lost track of the number of truth bombs he was dropping. The Kennedy family have history in trying to improve the conditions of normal people. His uncle was also responsible for introducing health reforms that did improve access to healthcare for working class people. Robert Kennedy Jr. has a track record of looking after and advocating as a lawyer for environmental causes. And if you look at the root cause of ill health, well, it comes down to environment, it comes down to food, comes down to pollution, it comes down to stress. And we are living in a neoliberal economic structure which makes all those problems worse. If you have a polluting company pouring poison into rivers, affecting the sea life, what we end up consuming, well, that's going to have a health effect. But at the moment, our economic model allows corporations to walk away from their environmental impact and the public pick up the tab. This is called an externality. So the profits are theirs and the downside we have to pick up.
Well, let me know in the comments in the chat what you thought. Share this video around. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at either of these. Remember, turn on the notification bell and subscribe. It's the only way we can stay connected with you continually. More important than any of that is that you please stay free.